Hello, viewers. Welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA. I'm Vibhuti Jha, your host as usual. Before we start, submit my request to you. Please like, subscribe, support our channel any which way you can. It matters to us. Today, I'm going to talk to you about a very simple matter, two significant things that have happened around. One is in India. The budget has been announced. Prime Minister Modi had said that his first in 100 days he would do something very significant insofar as economic issues are concerned. So whether this budget fulfills that declaration of Prime Minister Modi, or is it falling short? And the second issue would be the sudden coming up of Kamala Harris and Mr. Biden dropping out. To discuss the impact and implication series that we talked to you about, I have great pleasure in welcoming Dr. Ankit Shah once again. Dr. Ankit Shah, welcome to the show.
Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.
Always a pleasure.
My honor and my pleasure. You know, people may not know, but this generational gap between Vibhuti Jha and Dr. Ankit Shah has gone on for a long time, and we know each other for a while. So, when he was a young person at IIMA doing his PhD, now he is a full-fledged, authentic doctor. So, Ankit ji, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है. And let's kind of talk about this for the US perspective, because media plays a very cruel role. It plays a great role. Both run simultaneously. So Prime Minister Modi had said that he will do something great in the first 100 days on the economic conditions of Indians and the economy of India, because he has also declared about 2047. Everybody has talked about it. You especially have talked about it. So tell me quickly, how do you feel whether this budget is proceeding in that direction, or has it fallen short? There was one caveat that I want to say here. One of the things that is being talked about rampantly is that the middle class is angry, upset, and whatever. So give me your feedback in terms of the impact and implication of this budget, whether Mr. Modi's dream will happen, India's dream will happen.
So, Vibhuti ji, ever since that the results have come, a lot of, the rumblings that we hear in social media on the BJP and the country, and also with respect to the results that have come. The analysis that was prior to the results that everybody was doing on social media, the talks that were happening on social media as well as legacy media, and that has happened post the results. So there's a striking difference between both of it, just like the result as well. So we got to understand that there are now new realities to face because you have a coalition government in place, right? Whether we like it or we don't like it, that is what the fact is. So I think the government, what they were promising prior to the elections, the first 100 days, probably 125 days, 25 days he added for the young, for the youth of the nation. They had some, dynamic reforms they would have planned for this 125 days. And to my understanding, after the result, that they formed this government, looking at the new, calculations, political calculations, so to speak, I think they must have changed the sequences of their reforms. So you can very well understand why that is so. One of the primary reasons where you see a lot of criticism coming in from various quarters saying that, oh, Andhra Pradesh is going to take some funds, oh, Bihar is going to take some funds. Now, these are the leaders, political parties that you now have in the coalition. So you got to understand that if you are cribbing for those kind of things, one good signal with this budget is that these are not freebies which are going to the states. Okay, these are very specific infrastructure projects, and to my understanding, the kind of precision and monitoring these guys have, this is going to be work on, completion basis release of money. So I do not have any doubt that this is going to be some kind of communist freebies coming in for the two states. So just to give a reasoning why it's not that bad as it would otherwise would have been in case if it was a really effective coalition, parties forcing the government to give freebies and stuff like that. So I don't think that criticism stands. As far as only the two states focus, that is what the people are they have these allegations or concerns. Well, understanding is, I mean, if you look at Bihar, that particular state, I mean, it is in dire need anyways of infrastructure and stuff. So I don't think there is something new that has happened. And if at all the voters would have problems with this kind of things, then they would have not taken leave on the voting day and given a full majority if you had this kind of concerns, right? So now this is what the realities are. Second thing, what we got to understand is this is I'm very happy with this budget. It's a balanced one. 4.9% as a fiscal target is a very good achievement looking at a global scenario that the world is in. To be very frank, for the population size that we have. Second thing, the allegations which are coming, I mean, the middle class is sad and stuff like that. So, I mean, I had a lot of exchange on Twitter with people who were claiming to be middle class, and then I asked them, what is your definition of middle class? So, someone said 30 lakhs per annum. So, then I explained to him that the majority of the country is below 7 lakhs.
Just one request. Kindly repeat that middle class thing because your audio went bad. So please repeat
Uh,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So, I had a lot of interaction on Twitter about this. So, some of the people who were criticizing about middle class being not happy with this, when I asked them what their definition of middle class is, so someone said 30 lakh per annum. So, the entire range from 5 to 30. So, we got to understand that the realities are very different in Bharat. Most of the population lies below the range of 7 or 9 lakhs, 10 lakhs per annum. Most of the biggest chunk of it. So obvious, it is very obvious that they are going to have lesser tax. So I had expectations that the tax slabs would have higher ranges. They did some minor change,
Hmm.
not so much as I would have liked. But then we got to understand the kind of infrastructure capex expenditure that they are showing. So if that high expenditure needs to be done, this many airports are needed, right? This many roads and highways are needed. This much of defense expenditure is needed for border connectivity and stuff. Then in that case, well, this is what you can get maximum. So besides that, the budget is clearly signaling de-dollarization. Last time as well, when they came up with the new tax regime, the idea was that in the new tax regime, you don't get ATC deductions. What that goes to means is that government wants money that you are parking in mutual funds and equity should go actually as savings for seed funding for your some kind of entrepreneurship or for as seed funding for the next generation. This is what the intention looks like. Okay, so this time there is a short-term capital gain tax 20% on stocks. So they are clearly discouraging it. And I think all those people, these traders who are unhappy with this kind of capital gains tax, they need to understand that was purely a speculative trade, gambling, so to speak. And a lot of youngsters were falling prey into it. In fact, the data which is collected by SEBI says about 7 out of 10 investors lose in this kind of trading. Okay, in some extreme cases, 9 out of 10 lose. So, and besides that, looking at next 5 years of tumultuous, international trade and the financial reset possibility, it was necessary to curb down on the stock market trade and stuff like that, especially if it is short term, because you don't want your population to become victim of a global financial reset
Right.
and all of a sudden lose a big chunk of their savings, right? So all those who are sad right now will be happy when they will see those big ups and downs happening during the financial reset in the stock market. So in fact, today itself I tweeted one Balaji who talks on one of the expert macroeconomic. He's been talking about de-dollarization as well. He has today posted that all the EU banks, almost like a bankrupt European region. So, in fact, to my clients, I've clearly suggested that remove all the cash from the Western banking system because these next, I mean, you've got to understand that this is the US election which the global planners are waiting for.
Right.
So, as soon as this election gets closed, uh, things can go down south any moment. We don't know when. So it is always better to take precautions on time. As I've been saying, 401k as well would be targeted because in the West, it is always the aged and the infants who are on target. They would not target the young. Okay. So 401k retirement fund, or if you're putting some jewelry in the bank vault, I don't trust the Western banking system at all. Okay. No.
Look,
So
I
they
will, I
have a
will,
history of
I will come
confiscation.
back to you on this subject matter because this is you touched upon a very vital subject matter, bringing in Balaji's name, and Balaji is a very smart young man. I have met him. His parents are very good friends of mine, so that's how I know about that very dynamic guy. So, but you use the phrase sequence of reforms. You said earlier on the sequence of reforms may have changed because of the coalition politics. You also brought about the fact that Western banking system is in a kind of a precarious situation, and you are warning Indians living here with 401k or otherwise to exercise caution. You are saying don't even keep your gold in the locker. That's a very important impact and implication of what is going on around us. So tell us about this part very sincerely on this subject matter. Is there something in the budget that the Indians living abroad need to take advantage of or stay away from? Did anything strike you like that?
Well, one thing is that they have removed the angel tax, which means those people who want to invest into startups, they can certainly transfer their money as investments to the startups.
Right.
One thing is this. Second is uh, since de-dollarization can be measured in only two ways. One is the inflation in the Western countries, and second is increase in the gold prices. So these are the only two places where you can see and check and say yes, de-dollarization is going on. So what the government has done is cut down the customs on gold and silver, which means it is clearly signaling to the citizens to buy as much as they can. And to my understanding, I am expecting in the coming GST meetings, they will raise GST on gold and silver. So, by effect, what happens is they're telling the citizens to buy gold and silver from outside and then not sell it and keep it. Okay. So, so
Very
you increase
sensible.
GST.
Yeah,
So, as you increase
this was
GST,
one of the two items that I wanted to ask you, purely from the impact and implication perspective. The tax
yeah.
rates have fallen on the import of gold and silver from 15% to 6%. That's pretty significant. So, what is it telling to the people that acquire, hold gold, don't sell, right? Keep it, which is what the ultimate reserve is for all the Indian families. Now, sequence of reforms, I'm coming back to that again. Bihar and Andhra Pradesh have been talking about as a special category for quite some time. And this time they have managed to get it. I'm from Bihar, you are from Gujarat. When Nitish Kumar had complained about Gujarat model of economic development will not work for Bihar, I had mentioned to him, sent a message to him, didn't talk to him, that all you need is import 5% of Gujarati acumen in Biharis, and we will transform the whole country. Bihar has the potential because Bihar is a rich state. Now it is Bihar and Jharkhand. So Bihar has never realized this potential. And it's
Mhm.
for Bihar and other states to recognize the reality that other states have reason to be angry with you because you suck in resources and you waste it in the name of arakshan, inefficiency, inefficient production, and lack of impact. That's something which every single Bihari needs to recognize, that you can't be living off the tax gains coming from southern part of the India or western part of India and other countries. So tell me one thing, how will that happen? Because Bihar is in the grip of what I call the Arakshan based performance. There is no culture of performance in Bihar. And I say this with tremendous sadness. How will that impact in this kind of an allocation that has happened?
Mhm. So, to give you a macro view, Vibhutiji,
Yeah,
we got to understand. I mean, because I would know more about Gujarat because I've lived here.
yeah,
So I would have a perspective from my home ground, right? So my understanding is that it is the entrepreneurs. It is a family based entrepreneurship model which eventually succeeds economically the state. Okay, so any other model would be very difficult to retain and improvise on the wealth proportion of the state. Okay. Now, what happens with a job model is you hand over your savings to the companies in the form of stocks because you are investing in stocks. Now, why is someone investing in stocks? Because he is very clear that his child is not worth to be investing as a seed funding for some kind of a business idea, which reflects on the failure of the education format as well. That is a separate topic. That is what the government is also going to work on. They have promised big changes therein as well with the digital education format. But the most important part about family unit entrepreneurship is, and I got some questions on this about Gujarat. I mean, the comments were like, oh, Gujaratis are always rich, so wo log to kar sakte hain. They can do it, how will we do it? I mean, we are poor states. So I tell them that even in Gujarat, when entrepreneurship starts, it's not such an easy task, because every entrepreneur, one generation has to completely sacrifice. They started from minus and zero. It is the third generation which actually makes benefit of what wealth and business acumen that is accumulated over three generations. They make the maximum out of it. So one generation has to sacrifice whenever you start some kind of a business idea, in terms of number of hours, in terms of saving cost and stuff like that. So it's not that I mean, you are starting some business idea in Gujarat, then you are already rich. No, that's not how it happens. In fact, even in the late 90s, many of businessmen who grew up from the late 90s, they were all from the savings of their family members. They started that seed fund that way itself. Okay. So, to my understanding, those states who have a job focused lifestyle format, they inadvertently get into a lot of politics. They get into a lot of protest stuff. They get into a lot of demands for reservation and stuff like that. They get into a lot of linguistic protest and stuff like that, which would never happen with an enterprising mentality state. Okay, Gujaratis will never protest for Gujarati language, will never claim that Hindi is being imposed. Similarly, Rajasthanis are also enterprising. They will never protest for a Marwadi language. They will never say Hindi is imposed. So, whenever you see this kind of linguistic protests, or for protests for reservation and stuff like that, it mostly comes from the economic insecurity of the job model. Okay. So now, overall, if you look, you have two options. I mean, if those people who have read the economic survey, it is so beautifully drafted, whoever has drafted it. It is so beautifully drafted. I'll mention one of the stuff which is written over there. It quotes an Economic Times report where it is saying that the company's profits have quadrupled, but they aren't giving salaries so much. Neither they have hired so many people. So what that goes to mean is that if these companies are making surplus profits by selling products and services to the masses, but accumulating that money into the hands of few rich owners of that business, of those companies, uh, the masses are not benefited out of it. So at the end of the day, the people of the country will have to decide, do you want to empower such companies by transferring your savings in the stock market and giving them capital while they are not even ready to give you jobs, and they are accumulating this entire money into their few hands? Do you want to do that, or would you want to empower each other and buy each other's products and services?
Very,
Okay,
very
so
well.
these are the two options. One is clearly the extreme end of Adam Smith capitalism, and second is clearly Sanatan economics model. Okay, so either you go to that extreme, then you only get jobs. Okay, that too if they wish to, and then because the kind of weaponization of money is so much, they are also replacing job with human jobs with tech.
Right.
Okay, so tomorrow they are going to deploy tech as well with that kind of power of money. So do you want to give them that power of money and lose jobs as well, and still want to continue using those their products? That is the decision which the states have to make. Okay, so
That's a very, very valid point, and I like the way you said it. That those states who are doing well, like Gujarat, Rajasthan, they have no language issue, they have no language problem, and people who have nothing to do, they have all kinds of problems. It also brings about, this is what I always say, that let's learn from each other. The enterprise, how does it happen? It doesn't happen overnight. You don't invest and make 1 billion overnight in first shot. Learn to fail. It's only when you learn to fail that you want to get up and go again. Take that analogy. But here comes another very important point here. See, for example, Karnataka and Kerala, somewhere somebody, I think Supreme Court, praised this Kerala model of economic growth, and Karnataka is saying, and both the states are virtually bankrupt. Virtually bankrupt. I'm not saying they are bankrupt, but they're virtually bankrupt. And I find, because I lived in Bangalore for 5 years when I was working with Reserve Bank of India, you realize that the Karnataka politicians were very smart. They then got the India's 7 prime public sector undertakings. I can count them out: Indian Telephone Industries, Bharat Earth Movers Limited, Bharat Electronics, Hindustan Aeronaut, Hindustan Air, HAL, Bale, so many of them, Bharat Earth Movers Limited. Consequently, even Myco went over there in Karnataka, in Bangalore. So the Bangalore's development of today has seeds which were done many years ago by Kannadiga politicians. And that was a smart move. So today, if Karnataka complains, I say don't, because people like you and I have gone there to work. That's how Karnataka also flourishes. For them to go bankrupt in freebie culture is disaster. So is Kerala. Is asking for help from center for all the freebies they go. So tell us one thing about, if you were advising the prime minister, and you and I do not agree in freebie culture, how to curb that political tendency to promise to to give the moon when you don't can't give the moon anyway because you don't have the moon. So this is what is happening in Democratic Party does in America too. Pay what you don't have, promise to give what you don't have, and you don't have to. How does a common man understand this dilemma, and how to stop that nonsense? Tell me.
so I think a lot of stuff they are bringing in the budget itself. The Mudra Yojana, they have increased from 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs for those who are starting business. Similarly, they have brought up 1 lakh crore corpus for 50 years for zero interest rate. Okay. So all those who will fall into those categories would be able to get funding from there for pushing innovation. Similarly, they are bringing scholarship stipend kind of a thing for students who will be able to use some kind of a e-coupon for the loans for the academic fees. Similarly, they are also bringing for the research purpose and stipend for joining some of the top companies as interns. Because I mean, they're trying to force in people where these people are not wanting to hire new people, companies. So that also they are bringing in. So for upskilling and education, they have come up with a huge fund. They have also come up with a huge fund in terms of agriculture, because I've been stressing again and again. The fundamental problem that the world is facing right now is that the size of people who think that they want to become rich just by investing in somebody else's business. That size of population has grown so much that there are no people left who would want to make some real product or service. So this model of Abrahamic economics is unsustainable, and humanity cannot do a financial reset in every century. So my understanding is eventually, because of this model, so many of the farmers have suicided because you snatched their valuations
Right.
by the single country reserve currency formula, and by speculative trade on paper assets. You
Right.
reduce the values of the commodities and production that they do. So all people who are actually working with their hands and legs making some real product, they get peanuts for payments, which is why this currency reset is happening. Because if everybody is going to invest in somebody else's business, I mean, how many somebody else do we have as entrepreneurs? So in the US, you have the five tech companies where everybody has parked the money just to make profits, just to be rich by just parking the money over there, right? If the whole chunk of population will start doing that, and then there is no real product on ground or service to back that up, obviously the financial system would collapse. This is exactly what is happening with the currency reset. Why this is why the currency reset is actually happening, right?
Right. That's very critical. The last question on the budget is very important. Just to clarify to the viewers, my understanding, whenever the word de-dollarization is used, is not that dollar will evaporate or dollar will be closed down. It only means that the current payment, international payments, currency exchanges, is linked to dollar. And because of alternates arising due to political and economic factors, people are now willing to trade in their own currencies. People are making bilateral arrangements to trade within each other instead of, you know, relying upon entirely the American benevolence and chicanery, in which America can always sanction you and freeze your assets. So people are now resisting that. And thanks to technology, the payment mechanisms and settlement mechanisms have become dramatically better. So no longer are those old methods available. So de-dollarization is people creating alternatives. Dollar was the sole reserve currency. That status will go, and that's what Mr. Trump also emphasized in his speech, in his acceptance speech, that we will bring back dollar as a reserve currency. His statement clearly implies that the threat to dollar as a reserve currency is real, and it has begun to happen. So read between the lines. That's what I talk about, the impact and implication. There's one thing quickly I want to touch upon, which I was very impressed, that the government has allocated $23 billion towards urban development and in small nuclear reactors to be set up in various places. That is remarkably significant from my point of view, because when I read that, I was thrilled, because small nuclear reactors can solve local power problems and local productivity and also clean air. And now, apart from Chernobyl and potential of accident and causing massive damage, is one thing, but France uses 80% of its nuclear power, and the safety standards have gone up dramatically. Where will this come from? And the urban planning, which is very important for tier 2, tier 3 cities, because they are attracting a lot more compared to tier 1 cities, which have become unaffordable for everybody. So when to allocate 23 billion for affordable housing and urban development and small nuclear reactors, tell me about that, your impression on these.
Well, Vibhuti, the kind of global churn that is coming, the focus is naturally going to shift to tier two and tier three, because as you rightly mentioned, the fiat dollar cities, which I call them, be it anywhere in any country, these fiat dollar cities artificially being built and created by, as I said, looting the valuations from the core sectors. So people who are working in the core sectors are still working in the core sector. The only problem is they're not getting the right value for the money, for the production that they do.
Hmm.
Okay. So now with de-dollarization, as the purchasing power comes back to tier two and three, I'll not be surprised that a service sector is going to take a hit, which was primarily created for supporting tier one. And with that, I would see a lot of migration happening across the world from tier one to tier two and tier three. So valuations are going to come back to all those people whom we were looking down upon because they don't know English language, because they get less payments, they were not using brands, stuff like that. So it's a very good move that if the government is able to empower them with proper electricity supply, as you are saying, with dispersed nuclear network or whatever that they build, that will really shore up their capacities of doing economic activity in their region itself. They won't have to need to go outside to some other city or state. So that is very empowering if this is what they are able to do. If this is the kind of allocation they have made, they already made a good allocation for the agriculture sector as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Because yes, because the new world is going to be more focused on the core sectors. So a lot of valuation will come back for the farmers in that as well.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a
So
big change.
the last question on the budget. So 2047, everybody's talking about India becoming 30 trillion, 25 trillion, or 50 trillion dollars. People are making speculations. So if I were to ask you very quickly, what is the percentage coverage of that distance in this budget for that?
Well, they have laid the foundation for it, but this is one budget cannot be. I mean, they will have to maintain this consistency across the next 5 years or 2 years, whatever. If we don't have a midterm election, then 5 years. If we have a midterm elections, then 2 years. They maintain this consistency in every budget. Then there will be that will make some significant change on ground to achieve that 2047 target.
Right.
But overall, this is a very decent budget, irrespective of what people say, because let me tell you, the percentage of people paying income tax in Bharat is tiny. It is
Yeah.
tiny.
Right.
Okay. So the tax slabs do not make much of a change, although, but the focus has clearly shifted from, artificially propping up stock market and companies. Rather than that, the government wants you to save money. They also do not want you to park black money in real estate. So they have removed the indexation benefit post 2001 properties. Okay. So a lot of black money was being parked in real estate and just hoarding of real estate by these people.
Right.
Okay. So which made unaffordable for others.
Hmm.
So that's a very good move that they have removed indexation post 2001 properties. And the one big change which is very nice is they are going to make GIS tagging of the property records. A lot of Benami properties and stuff will come out once that GIS tagging gets done. So that is one big welcome change in this budget.
I love the old song "Mohabbat Karegi Asar Dheere Dheere." So it looks like lot of wrinkles and lot of stuff that has been done. People are not noticing it, and there is a concerted attack. I want to come back to you on Kamala Harris. as many
mm,
Indians in America are calling her Hamari Kamala, our Kamala.
mm.
Her name is Kamala. People are talking about Kamala is meaning goddess of this and Lakshmi and all that kind of stuff. But in your impression of things, this lady has never won a primary in her first presidential bid. She has never claimed to be a Hindu. She is known to be, she has claimed as a black Indian. She has Christian heritage. She has nothing to do with Hindu. But a lot of Indian Americans are virtually smitten by her name. So the question is, she has never won her primary. She was a losing candidate. Tulsi Gabbard trashed her so badly in the first debate that she got barely 1% of the vote. And now, without contesting the primary in her own party, the geopolitics of Biden being shut down, and she is being hoisted, coronated, anointed as the next presidential candidate. How do you see that play out in the American context? And I say this for a very simple reason. This election for America is a pivotal election. Whether America will go back to being what made America great, or it will embrace the socialist Marxist Islamist ideology, which is where extreme Kamalaji is taking the country towards.
Well, I think the Vibhutiji, we all knew for the first term when Biden came,
Yeah,
that time itself, I think many of them made this prediction that she will take over. Okay. So this was expected in any case. President Biden's health was not good anyways. So it looks like, uh, as we know, that this is not a normal election this time. You already had an assassination attempt on President Trump.
right.
So uh, I don't. I think there are still more stories to come in this election.
Mm,
Some big moments might more happen, right? And if we are seeing the kind of visuals behind President Trump in that scenario, and the reels which are becoming viral, if it is the case that people surrounding him are involved in this, then there could be a second attempt and that might not fail. If people surrounding him are involved in this,
yeah.
if that is the case, okay. So in terms of US economy, President Kamala Harris, if she becomes, if that happens, um, for the rest of the world, it is really a good news for the rest of the world because, as I say, dealing with Democrats is much more easier than dealing with Republicans. I'm talking about bilateral relationship because Democrats, because the kind of show that they make on screen of everything good, being sophisticated, fancy English language, and stuff like that, they can spring back after damaging the relations, which is so not the case with President Trump or some Republican coming in. If they shut down, then they completely shut down the relationship,
Hmm.
right? With Democrats, you can still make deals. Okay. So it's like, if the US State Department comes up with, say, some human rights violation and XYZ, which they normally do, those kind of reports. Okay. So one fine day, you will find the US ambassador talking all those points. Okay. After a few days, he will still be doing Bhangra, okay, on screen. So, you know, it's kind of a thing where the negotiation still goes on even after damaging the relationship, which is not the case with Republicans. With the Republicans and President Trump, if they say that they want Harley Davidson, this should be the tax rate, then that should be the tax rate. Okay, then there is no going back to or any room of negotiation once decided. I mean, if you look at his statements just recently, he said, before I joined the office, Hamas should give back all the hostages or else dot dot dot, right? So You got to understand that for the rest of the world, at least Democrat president is actually something which with whom you can deal. But if you ask me officially in terms of America's interest, then certainly Democrats are not in America's interest.
That's a very dramatic statement, and I like it. I like it for the simple reason that you have acknowledged the truth. Acknowledge the truth is, which is what Trump says, make America great again. What's good for America? That's what Prime Minister Modi says, make in India. So these are the pragmatic stance taken, that unless and until, as in when you fly in the airplane, they make the announcement, right? Security drill. So when the oxygen mask falls, first put it on yourself before you help others. If you are yourself not in a fit condition, how can you help others? So it's a very poignant statement you made, that Democrats are good for everybody else but for themselves, which means it is essential for Democrats to dance to other people's tune. I have no choice because I'm dancing to everybody else's tunes.
But
Republicans,
then whose country it is, Vibhutiji?
exactly.
It is
Who's
everybody else's. It is everybody else's country, isn't it?
exactly? That's the point which I'm trying to come to this element, that America is a country that belongs to everybody. You know, the famous satirist PJ
So how
wrote,
many ghost voters?
yeah,
So how many ghost voters you are going to have will decide the election result.
exactly. How many ghost voters? And this is very tragic, actually. See, because you and I know this element, that you know Trump will be good for America. The fact that he in his acceptance speech he made a mention that I want to bring stability to the world. I'm going to end the wars, and he gave a direct told Hamas directly, return or else face the music. Do you think the world needs a leadership like this? I mean, this is a very important part. Trump has
Well,
never Trump has never criticized Xi or Putin. He said
hmm,
those people
hmm,
are tough leaders and they know how to negotiate with us. So they
hmm,
will have to negotiate, because he's the man who wrote the book Art of Deal, right? So the
hmm,
Democrats lose the point. That's why, and all the negotiation advantage that went to China and Russia was under democratic rule. Whether it was uranium to Russia, 20, the whole amount of uranium that was sent to Russia. The Chinese
hmm.
extracted a lot of benefits. Trump came in, brought tariffs. So tell me one thing: the president works for the country, prime minister works for his country, or do they have to dance to the tune of others? That's the that's what I would ask.
Well, Vibhuti the question in United States is something different. The question in United States is, with the kind of financial situation right now that is what is given. Okay, based on that, if you are getting President Trump, you are getting a haphazard de-dollarization process.
Okay.
Okay, so he will launch tariffs on countries. He will force American companies to decide uh, either or. I mean, you operating in India or China, or you're operating here. If you want to operate, get lost. Something like that. Okay. Uh, with the Democrats, the de-dollarization is still going to happen, but the Democrats' method is a little different one. Their method is they launch sanctions on countries. Their method is siphoning of US taxpayers' money to the defense contractors and continuing the conflicts. In which case, also the outcome is going to be the same. The financial reset is, anyways, going to happen. But with President Trump, the international trade would be in a place where it will be it will be unbelievable crisis. I mean, he's going to take haphazard decisions without even asking his own allies in the West. Okay, because that's what he is, right?
But
So,
he's also a businessman. His
but
apartments, his
one
golf
thing which is
courses.
very good about President Trump
Yeah.
is his alignment on de-radicalization. He's
Right.
completely aligned to that.
Yes.
So in that case, the rest of the world has lot to benefit. I mean, if de-radicalization is completed in West Asia, your IMEC corridor, Bharat would certainly want it. The IMEC corridor becomes free and smooth and safe, right? So in that sense, he is very helpful in terms of, because he's recognized, clearly recognized, without mincing words, that Islamic terrorism is his priority.
Right.
Okay, so that in international terms, in terms of peace, Trump is going to be very good. In terms of trade with America, it's going to be difficult. With the Democrats, trade with America will be good, but international peace will not be there. Okay.
That's a very valid point, and this is a very I'm very excited about the impact implication that we are talking about. People will have to choose, right? Whether you want to live with terror or you want to live with a tough economic scenario. Tough economic scenario is not that you give everything to America, but you negotiate your capacities. But important part here comes the very crux of the problem. Today, the democracies are under heavy strain. I need not tell you, you need not tell the world, but everybody knows what's happening in Europe. Everybody knows what is happening in America. The Islamic terrorism is a reality, whether you like it or not. They have taken to the streets, they show muscle power, they do whatever they want, and they put you and I that we are responsible for that. So they claim victimhood, they kill and they claim victimhood for killing others. So the oppressor is also the oppressed. So the point here is very important. What is your priority? Where must the world priority be like? And you said something very important. If there is world peace, it is good for the economy. Generally, the life of the people is better. You have a military industrial complex that may suffer, but not permanently. So the question is, how do you define those priorities and what comes first?
Well, if I would be a voter within United States, then I would vote for the Republicans. Also understand that once peace is established, the cycles of economy can revive back again.
Right.
Okay, uh, with the cycles of conflicts continuously moving about, um, you won't have peace. So whatever economics that would happen in international trade would happen at the mercy of the deep pockets who are sitting in the United States.
Right.
So only that much economics can happen. So eventually, my understanding is, if President Trump comes, the chances of West Asia settling down with peace for a long term, if at all Iran conflict begins, if President Trump comes and Iran conflict begins, he will be in a position to close it ASAP, which is not the case with the other party. Okay, which is exactly why Netanyahu, while that is going to visit United States, going to meet President Trump as well. Similarly, Zelensky has also now started talking to President Trump, because he also realizes that the freebies that he is relying on will suddenly abruptly stop, and the pool party will stop
Right.
in Ukraine, right?
Right.
So, because all this is siphoning of funds, everybody understands it. Who doesn't know it? Okay. So, it's just that money printed in one building, the defense contractor sitting in the next building is collecting that money, and some third country is getting destroyed. So, it's very, very sad that this is the kind of international economics that comes from the West. So, the
No,
early it ends, the better.
exactly. The other part also is very important that, it has it I was not happy, I was saddened when the senators and congressmen made public announcement for approval of the $60 billion plus budget for Ukraine. They said these monies are not going to Ukraine, it is going to our own companies. Now, I was stunned, not because of the dishonesty or honesty of it, but the fact
But
that we have to
Vibhuti
go
ji,
over,
you
we have to go
don't
through
have
the
any
opening
other
and bidding.
economics now.
Sorry.
Come on, you don't have any other economics. Then what else would you do? You shifted manufacturing to China.
Yeah.
Okay. You shifted out all the core sectors. Now we are only importing stuff. In fact, if you jot down the chart of the last 50 years, I think there are only 3 or 4 years of trade surplus in the
Right.
last 50 years.
Right.
Okay. So if you have shifted everything out, then the only thing you got is defense and tech. Okay. Now tech as well is going to be under question because see the Chinese and the Russians are not going to give access. And Bharat, this time, the kind of election interference that has happened, I'm telling you, take it from me in writing, uh, it will be a sudden action coming in and everything will lose the platform. I'm telling you. Because this was epic proportion of interference. Epic.
This was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This,
Boundless.
you know, and I know,
Limitless.
and public knows now that the
Yeah.
Western interference in Indian elections was big, and that's why I had tweeted that I'm grateful to those voters who voted Modi 3.0. It was very important because you do not know what would have happened in case Rahul Gandhi had come to power or he had become the prime minister. It would have disastrous impact for India. I
True.
mean,
True.
one need not be under any delusions about that. This is very critical. So thank you for those who voted. But important part here is, one thing is very clear. The era of interdependence is upon us, technology or otherwise. You have seen Elon Musk leaving California, right? Whether eventually Kamala Harris gets nominated in the convention, or she's anointed, or she's just whatever happens as a coronated, as whatever. Do you think that departure of high techs from, if Elon Musk is leading the exodus from California to other states, do you think it has impact on American technology sector at all?
Well, they want the tech sector to collapse. It's a part of the financial reset. So I am not surprised if they are kicking out people from California, illustrious people and businesses. So be
Oh,
it California and New York, because New York is financial capital, uh, California being IT capital. So all the IT and finance capitals of the West are going to collapse, irrespective. So it's part of the financial reset script. There's no surprise about it because any which ways, as I told you, that Russia and China is not going to give access. Bharat is going to take abrupt action any point in time. We will not know when it will suddenly strike. Okay, on the big tech platforms because they, as I said, as we all know, the kind of interference that has happened. Uh, Maybe it happens before the next election. We don't know when exactly because that will be strategically placed timing,
hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Because the government will calculate how it benefits and
right,
how it doesn't.
right,
So, to my understanding, all the reserve currency bubble is sitting in the five tech stocks in terms of valuation. I mean, I have also talked about this on JD as well. That if you take Nvidia, and why Nvidia I'm taking is because it was 30th November 2001 when Nvidia replaced which stock? Enron, the famous Enron.
right, right.
Yeah. And why is that date selected? Because that is the date, 30th November 2001, when the BRICS acronym was
Correct.
published for the first time,
Right.
right? It's part of the script. So you do understand that the entire reserve currency bubble is right now sitting in the tech stocks, some portion in Bitcoin as well. And as soon as the reset would happen, a big valuation will go from there, right? Just like the dot com crash of 2002, which was the first ever de dollarization by the launch of euro currency.
Right.
That is where 78% of IT sector valuations were lost.
Right.
That was the first de-dollarization in the world.
My final question of the day, and that is that's something which has struck me a while ago, and I have been making that statement, but I have never shared that with you. We have never talked about it. In the political setup, in the socio political, economic, technology sector part of it, do you find do you find that freedom has become the fault line of democracy? Because the people who are abusing the freedom the most are the people who will not give you any freedom if you had their dispensation imposed. So how must the democracies and freedom lovers actually deal with it? Final question of the day.
Well, as I've said before as well, you know, the democracy format is inherently suicidal in the sense every 50 years it needs a new autocrat leader to come and press the reset button, and then another 50 years you can enjoy democracy. That is how it operates. Okay. So every 50 years you need one autocrat to come,
Yeah.
who would kind of tweak democracy format in a way, in multiple ways, to bring the outcomes that the nation desires. And then subsequent leaders can come who are a bit liberal in that sense. And then democracy survives another 50 years because it is based out of this assumption that every voter is a rational voter, which is actually not the case. Now everyone knows it, right? So that is what the inherent problem with the democracy format.
Thank you very much. It is a very interesting topic to talk about, and we will again. So thank you, Ankitji, for being with us today on Jaipur Dialogue USA, and deeply appreciate your coming and sharing your thoughts. I enjoyed the conversation. I hope the viewers do too. And please share your feedback because that's what makes us better. As I always say, please like, subscribe, and support our channel and support any which way you can. Satyamev Jayate, and for truth to triumph, you got to stand up for it. Thank you very much.
Jai
Have a
Hind.
good day. Jai Hind.